All right, we'll get going. Welcome, everybody. Audio's good all the way back? Audio guys? Okay, cool. Thank you guys for coming. How are the sessions so far today? Awesome. Good? Good. They just had the, vendor showcases just before this? Cool. All right, my name's Derek. I'm with Hospitable. We have an awesome panel. We actually have one panelist who's ending right at 2. So when he walks in, what should we do awkwardly to shame him for being late to his own panel? What do you think?
Shame.
Stand up and
shame.
Yeah, shame. All right. His name's Sam. You'll know when he comes in the room because we'll start doing that. Well, thanks for joining. We have an awesome panel today. Who does not have their first property yet? A couple people. Cool. How many of you have, let's say, 1 to 10? All right. Anybody 20 plus? Couple in the back. Okay, cool. So the panelists that we picked today have 20 or more properties, and a few of them, as I got to know them, went from 0 to 20 or more in like 16 to 18 months, and some have done it a little bit slower, and there's always a route to do it. So we picked the panelists today to show different ways that you can scale to 20, and there's a mix of co-hosting, ownership, arbitrage, all of those included. So we have some prepared questions that we'll ask, but we'll have, if you have a question while we're here, this is a small enough group, Miles has a mic, just raise your hand. Miles is in the other pink shirt. And please ask questions as we go through, okay? All right, so again, I'm Derek with Hospitable. This is our 2-minute commercial, I suppose. Any Hospitable customers in the crowd? Okay, a few hands there too. Everyone, one of our panelists, of course, are, of course. I started out as a short-term rental host, trying to offset my W-2 income, and I was a customer, then became an investor in Hospitable. They allow, we're 100% employee and customer owned, so we allow our customers to invest in the company, to share in the upside, and now we're sitting about 17,000 customers, and we're a property management software. So if you're one of the folks who does not have, let's say you have one listing or you don't have a listing, typically people will start to use a property management software when you add a channel. So when you go from Airbnb to Vrbo and Booking, and you want to not have to log in between those different apps, and you start just needing to automate things like PIN codes, you want a direct booking website, you want to automate messages, those are the things that we do. So Hospitable excels at all those things. We have a booth upstairs, and that's it. That's our 1.5-minute commercial. I gave my intro. I'm a property manager myself, but I'm just here to try to extract the insights from our panel here. So that's what we'll do. And what we'll cover, we won't read the bullets. We want to drop knowledge bombs. That's what we want to do today to help you scale your portfolio. So with that, I'll sit in the chair. We'll go down and do intros. These are a little bit out of order, so we'll start with Jeremy. We'll do intros, and we'll do it like this. Like, Jeremy, tell us just about your portfolio. Anyone else on your team
Sure.
that you use, and kind of give us an insight into your business, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah. Short and sweet. My name is Jeremy Rosen. I'm based in San Antonio, Texas. I've got right at the cap 20 properties that we're managing there in San Antonio. Small properties up to large experiential properties that any of those beautiful designers upstairs could have done for us. I was able to scale while still having a W-2. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit as well. I'm still a full-time nurse, so it is very important that I was able to create systems, but also a team. I actually have my director of operations, Tammy, right there, here, to learn alongside you all as well. But very excited to be here. I've been a lifelong Hospitable user. It's been very important in my growth as well.
Cool. So you have one person on your team? Do you use VAs or anything
so
else?
I have a mother and daughter duo. Tammy and her daughter are my boots on the ground, do everything so I don't have to, kind of people on the field. And then we have 2 virtual assistants as well that do a lot of the admin stuff.
And you own, co-host, arbitrage?
All co-host. Started with an arbitrage, and then after 3 years that lease ended, but it's been all co-host.
Very cool. Angela?
Hey everyone, I'm Angela. I have my own portfolio. I also manage a portfolio for a large investor, and we have a couple of clients. So we have a little over 20 properties right now. The one thing I think that might be different from the rest of my co-panelists is that we actually manage properties everywhere from Hawaii to the Smoky Mountains and everywhere in between. So like I said, my own portfolio, I've got a mix of long-term, short-terms, and then our 20 plus properties on Hospitable. So we're in, I think, 6 different markets right now. And we scaled, I think we went from about 6 properties to 20 plus in about less than a month. That's another fun story if anybody wants to hear it. Some war stories, I guess, but yeah, that's our portfolio.
And you probably, Angela's on social media, follow. She actually runs the portfolio in addition to her own for David Green, if you've followed the Bigger Pockets podcast. So she's managing his portfolio as well. So she drops knowledge bombs on their social media channels too.
Yeah, I'm Mike Riley. I live in New Bern, North Carolina. My wife and I co-founded NC Stays. We're in 6 different markets in North Carolina, in the western part of the state, Pinehurst, and also eastern part of the state where I live. We manage 28 properties, 5 of which we own, and been a Hospitable user for, actually when we started with Smart B&B, what it used to be called, and then moved to Guesty for about 6 months, and it was terrible. I came right back. And I've got two virtual assistants on the team, and then I actually use a local co-host model, which is a little bit interesting. It's a little different. It's not like a percentage co-host that we use for 2 of our markets. And then I'm right now hiring an operations manager like Jeremy to take on the full-time role. So
Cool. Sounds, we did not prepare that comment, but thank you.
Derek, are we talking about the other systems we used and didn't like? Was that part of this?
yes, let's do that.
Where you end up is what matters. Let's put it that way. All right. Okay, so let's start there. I think so. Some folks in the room don't have their first, or they're have their first, maybe trying to get to 2. So I want to get in each of your heads on, like, when you had that first property, and maybe you had your W-2, and you're just slugging. You have no idea what you're doing, right? I mean, that's usually how it happens. You don't know. You kind of accidentally got your first rental. And you're just like, well, oh my gosh, maybe I could make more money on this. Get us in the mindset when you had either 0 or 1 and you were struggling to think, should I scale this up, and what you were considering? Because I think almost everything is mindset over, usually mindset leads to action. So for those of you, yeah, so I'd love to just, the phrase that as a question, just help us understand the mindset that you took to when you were talking with yourself that you would scale, and the challenges you had to sort of convince yourself that it was worth doing that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, I'm still a nurse. 3 to 4 days a week, 12 hours a day. I couldn't do anything with real estate. You know, I work for the government. We can't log into Airbnb on the computer because they know. So it was like, do I still want to continue with this? Do I still want to do anything with real estate? But I knew, and I had such conviction in my transferable skills as a nurse, being able to take my guests from being in a hospital bed to being in a comfortable bed in a beautiful home. I knew that I could still do that. It was just about the how. So I kind of slugged along at about 4 properties for maybe a year and a half. I learned everything I could from Mike and Mike at the Short-Term Rental Secrets. And then at one point, it just got to the point where I've been to 3 of these conferences, and despite my best efforts, nothing was changing. And so ultimately, the mindset shift was, you know, what is it? If you want to go far, go with somebody else. If you want to go slow or whatever, go be yourself. I don't know, I butchered that. But anyway, you get it. So, you know, I made the decision that I needed the help, and I joined, you know, Short-Term Rental Secrets, and that is where I went from 4 to 12 to 16 in a matter of like 12 months. So it's just kind of the mindset that, you know, sometimes you just got to figure out what your limitations are, and then find the who, and take it there.
And what, maybe dive in a little bit, what was you, so you have a full-time job, you're working as a nurse, you're making good money, and this was like COVID period, like nurses could make like Uber money at this point too, right? So what were those, like, what were the things that were blocking you? You came to a conference 3 times, like what were specifically were the things that were holding you back?
I mean, I could always say time, but that's kind of a limiting belief at some point. You know, we all have the same 24 hours, but, you know, ultimately, the decision to really pursue real estate and to pursue co-hosting and short-term rentals, you know, really came during COVID. Something about a pandemic really takes the shine out of your job as a nurse. You know, it's really not the funnest time. So, you know, I don't know if this is really answering your question, but, you know, that's kind of where the real desire to, move on and do something else really came from.
Cool. Angela, how about you?
Yeah, like I said, our story is complicated and funny and interesting and awful. But my own personal short-term rental, the first one I had was in Crystal Beach, Texas. Does anybody here know where Crystal Beach is? Perfect. Okay, it's next to Galveston. You've never heard of it. But actually, can I give a shout out to Avery Carl, because that was kind of where I got my start. So they had a really great system of kind of teaching people like the basics and how to get started. And so that was where I started myself, and I did start on Hospitable, and I loved it. But I made sure with that first property that all of the things were dialed in, from the pricing systems to the locks to all of that stuff. And so from there, I think once you have the first one, that it's just copy paste. And so now, like I said, we're up to 20 plus, and when we bring on new properties, it's not nearly as stressful as the first one. But there's a lot of intricacies of when you first go live and you set your price at $2,000 a night while you set everything up and all of that good stuff. So I think once you have that first property, if you nail that down, and it sounds like a lot of you already have more than that already, but when you're starting small, if you make sure your systems are set up, you have the boots on the ground, that's going to be, I think, a good recipe for success for scaling.
Yeah, then for me, we started this in 2020. In 2019, I did 154 nights in a hotel, and my wife did like a little over 100. And so we were literally, I lived here in Nashville at the time, we were literally on I-40 like waving to each other as we were both going to our job. I worked in the tech space, and so when COVID hit, it was kind of like a blessing. It was like we had a chance to just take a breath, and we actually went to an Airbnb in Brevard, North Carolina, which I'm from North Carolina, like Derek as well, and we just asked ourselves, what do we really want out of this year, and really out of life too. We didn't have a family at the time, but wanted to plan that, and so we actually went through a couples goal setting exercise, and if you just give a Google to Jay and Wendy Papasan couples goal setting, there's a podcast from Bigger Pockets from 2019 that they did that changed the direction of our life. At that point, we knew she wanted to get out of her job, and so that pain was enough to say, all right, let's buy her first, and then we got addicted to her. In 2020, we were making money hand over fist. It was pretty easy back then, and then in 2021, we kind of ran out of money because we bought 3, and so that's when co-hosting was kind of a newer thing, and so we acquired, 13 co-hosting clients that year in 2021, and that really, it was a mindset thing of the pain of like getting in the car and having to go to that next meeting, or now it's, I got a 3 and a 2-year-old, so coming here was pretty tough, leaving them as well, but being around all you guys made it a lot easier, especially when I got here as well. So it's like, what is that pain that what do you really want out of like the next year, the next 10 years, the next 5 years? And so Jay and Wendy did a really good job explaining how to do that with your partner, whether it's a business partner or with a spouse. And so that's really what started it for us. And then, we have 28 properties now, and get to hang out with you guys and people like Sam over here, who's late. But dog ate his homework.
Thanks for coming, Sam. We know you ran directly to. We're just giving you a hard time. So, Sam, please do an intro, which we're kind of, for your intro, it's, do you host, co-host, where are the properties, a little bit about your business, anyone that you have on your team, and then I'll pose the question to you.
Fantastic. Hey, guys. Like Mike said, the dog ate my homework, and I am in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, about an hour north of New Orleans. I started as a side hustle. I actually started with long-term rentals. I thought that was the deal, right? I looked into apartment buildings, things like that. $100 a month cash flow, that was everybody's goal in that space, wasn't really lighting my fire, right? So I was in the corporate tech space, had a W-2, started listening to the Purple Book, right? Robert Kiyosaki. I'm sure we all kind of know what that is, right? That sparked my interest, and so then I wanted to learn more. And then I started listening to podcasts. And so I was like, what is the deal with these short-term rentals? Like, how are people making so much damn money? Right? I envisioned it as like a combination lock. I was like, if this guy's doing it, I've got to do it. Right? I know I can do it. So I just listened and I kind of self-educated. I was like, okay, I think this is how you do it. And so I tried a lot of podcasts and educated myself. And then I was like, okay, well, I really want to make this step. And at that time, I probably had a handful of like duplexes around Baton Rouge, right? I didn't want to be the duplex guy anymore, but I was the duplex, right? And so anyway, in fact, I got on the phone with you, dude. And so I was like, okay, well, let's do this. And so I'll never forget, I burned through the course in like a week. I was fired up. And then like 3 weeks later, the tenant that I thought was never going to go anywhere, she'd been there for 3 months in a one bed, one bath side of a duplex. Somehow she gets qualified for a loan, and she's going to move out. And I'm like, oh, shit, what do I do? And so I was like, well, I've got all this knowledge. And so I went all in. And so I did it. My wife is there to kind of help me. I had all the knowledge. We hired in a designer. We did that, and just kind of, I'll never forget, we named it after our first child, Little Bees Boho Retreat. Because Bernard is my son's first name, so I want to name it after him. So like each one of my properties, I name similarly to a child or a family member, right? So it's my kind of dedication to them, because my goal is to build a legacy that that would one day leave my W-2. Anyway, speed up this story. I did more money in short-term rentals in that 1 month than I did in the whole last year with a long-term rental. And so, boom. From then on, I transitioned all my long-terms to short-terms. Best move I've ever made. And people heard what I was doing, post some, photos and videos of me, just what I was doing on Facebook, like little stuff like, hey, this is a remote lock, right? And this is a noise sensor, like simple stuff that I didn't have to think about, that it was just easy, that I didn't have to memorize. And next thing you know, like I was the Airbnb guy in Baton Rouge. Okay, and so I just started my co-hosting business. So I own a co-host. We did 12 properties in 12 months in the ownership and co-hosting model. Left my W-2. We went on to do 18 listings in 18 months. My wife didn't divorce me, so that's good. And got her in the business. And so the team is really now, she is pretty much the COO of our short-term rental business. We have 20 across. We have one in Galveston, our largest markets in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We have 2 in Oxford, Mississippi, and we're really growing aggressively our Orange Beach market through some marketing things we're doing. And so we have 2 VAs that have been with us since the beginning. And yeah, we're now at 20 properties, and we're loving it.
Cool. I think a consistent thing I heard from each person is you guys have kind of a tribe and a team, not at the conference. There's people you're meeting with, conversing with after, when you were going from like 0 or 1 to scale. You had people that would either keep you accountable or that you could bounce the crazy ideas off of. So that might be a good takeaway from that question. All right, so let's jump into 5-star guest experiences. So we'll do Angela and Mike on this one. Actually, we'll start with Jeremy on this one. So what's one guest or customer experience tweak that you've implemented that makes your listing stand out, that either helps you get 5 stars or the things that your guests rave about? What's one tweak, hack that you've implemented across your listings?
Yeah, so again, coming from the medical field, I work in my day job with a lot of people that have had invasive surgeries, like open heart surgeries, the worst day of their lives. When they arrive to me in the ICU, if I'm not prepared for anything that could go wrong, something bad could go wrong, and it's going to be bad. I take that same mindset to setting up all of my properties, and I'm meticulous, and my team now is very meticulous about thinking, what could a guest ask a question about? What problem might they have? And making sure that we have a solution or some kind of a video that could be presented to them through our messaging, so that we don't have to hear these same questions over and over again. Same thing, we don't put any intricate like coffee machines or anything that they need instructions for, because if a person from Walmart couldn't do it, it doesn't go in our house. Like, it's got to be simple and easy to understand. Roku TVs, everything like that. So that's kind of the mindset that we take into setting up all of our properties. There are some properties that do have a little bit more of the higher end things that maybe not everybody would know how to do. So in conjunction with Happy Guest, a little plug for them, we're able to put little YouTube videos right into the Happy Guest thing. So when they log in, they have all the information they need about how to use the sound system, how to link up to the TV system if it's not Roku, things like that. So we really judge the guest experience based on how many questions we're getting about things. And if you get a question once, just assume you're going to get it a second time and figure out a process to fix it. So we're always, thinking about how can the guests just come, show up, have a great time so that we can just bet on a 5-star review.
That's awesome. Mike, we'll go to you for that one.
So the guest experience?
Yeah, what's one kind of tweak or hack that has made guests rave about something with your listings?
To add on to that, the QC process. So I talked about the local co-hosts. Basically, what that is, I'm in 6 different markets, and to be honest, I haven't been, except for the properties that I enjoy hanging out in, Pinehurst and in the mountains. I haven't been to any of those properties in a while, and so I rely on the local co-host to do a quality control check. And so it's basically I pay them $25 an hour to go in and go through an entire pre-stay checklist. So turning the TV on and putting YouTube on and putting some ambiance, which has some music, stuff like that, that just kind of go that extra mile. Put the welcome package in, but then go through every single room and make sure that everything looks good. So we press, steam press all of the linens to make sure everything's nice and tight and it looks really, really good. So that when they show up, they know that there's standards, and we have the standards through this quality control checklist. So that's, I think, the biggest thing for us that just allows us to have that same standard. And when I travel, I stay in hotels, except for this week. I want to stay with a lot of folks. But when my wife and I travel, even with the kids, we stay in hotels because we know what the standards are going to be. And so we've implemented the same quality control checklist so to make sure that our standards are high. Similar to Jeremy and his company too.
And do you do those checks before every check-in, or are you doing like once a week, once a month? Or
No, before every check-in. So
Okay.
it's typically the hour before check-in happens.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And so things on that list are like that the unit is prepared, or what kind of things are on that
Yeah,
list?
it's just that it's clean, it's prepared. They rate every single cleaning. So it's different from the cleaner. So it's always got to be a second person. It can't be somebody on the cleaning team or the cleaner themselves going through this checklist, right? They go through their checklist, but they could be the best cleaner in the world. There's going to be something that's missed. I mean, it's just, especially if they're doing multiple cleans a day in a week. So going through that, going through every room, making sure the lights are turned on, making sure the lights are turned on outside. I mean, some of you guys probably check into an Airbnb at night and you can't see anything. You don't even know where the front door is. That's the little things to go the extra mile on that, I think.
Very
really
cool.
help the guest
Very cool.
experience.
Yeah, it was making me think about my own rentals too. I think I probably relied too much on the cleaners to tell me that. But like they're skilled at doing, they have superpowers to clean a place. And they will sometimes let me know when something's wrong, but I'll go in and see that the door handle jiggles on the kitchen knob. And I'm like, maybe they're not the best people to do that. They care about the property, but someone else coming in, that's their job, that's a great idea. All right, we're gonna switch over, and Angela's going to get this one. It's crisis and issue management. She loves to talk about that topic. You can define crisis or issue management however you want, and then we'll go to Sam afterwards. But what's like the biggest crisis or issue that you've had to go through, and like how did your team solve it?
Ooh, where should I just like go big here?
Go big.
I think the biggest crisis was taking over 12 properties 2 weeks before Christmas and having to change every single lock and camera and essentially breaking into our own properties. It's probably the biggest crisis, but we had a system for it. And that sounds, this is a whole other story. If anybody listens to David Green, his podcast, you may know some about this story. But for our crisis management, we have, so majority of the properties that we manage are in the Smokies, and we've got bears, we've got AC issues in the summer, we've got heating issues, propane issues, and I think the biggest thing, again, 2 weeks before Christmas, long story short, we took the 12 properties over from a property management company that was grossly mismanaging and stealing money. So we took them back, but we didn't know what we didn't know. We didn't know all of the deferred maintenance, how high the propane levels are. There's so many things. If any of you have properties in the Smokies, there's a huge checklist of things you need to know. And they obviously didn't, it was a hostile takeover, so we didn't have all that information. Of course, they weren't going to share it. So I think the biggest thing is we have the best people on the ground between, we don't use one cleaner for all the properties because that would be irresponsible, I think, but we have really great boots on the ground, so we know if there's no propane, we have a good relationship with the propane company. They can get out the same day to add heat to the property. Or we actually, one of the biggest things I think is that we have a couple maintenance people that we really, really trust. And what they do is when they are at a property, this actually just happened yesterday, I had a maintenance guy that was doing an acid wash on a hot tub. And while he's there, and within reason, because it's very easy for them to take advantage of you, but while he's there, he will just do a quick walk through the property. And he said, hey, this tree next to your property is about to come down on your roof. So things like that, if anybody has read the book Upstream, I would highly recommend it. We try to get upstream, I think you were talking about this earlier, on those issues. And we do have, again, within reason, because handymen will tell you every little tiny thing that you need to fix, and it becomes very expensive very quickly. So we try to get ahead of those issues. Like I said, if a tree needs to come down in the Smokies, we have a lot of properties, there's fires there. So we have properties where trees need to come down or anything like that. So yeah, it's really just trying to make sure those boots on the ground, again, because we have properties all over the country. It's hard sometimes. We have amazing boots on the ground that will tell us those things ahead of time so we can get ahead of it. Like one property, we know an AC is about to go out any day, but we have the quote, we have the AC company that's ready to move, because we obviously don't want to spend $8,000 before we have to. So I think having, again, those systems in place and knowing those things ahead of time, what could go wrong, and being prepared, especially for things like heat and AC. We have a well pump that likes to go out and people literally don't have water. So yeah, just having a plan in place for when those things do happen, because it's not if, it's when.
I'm sitting here thinking, do I have a list of all the mechanical dates? How old are they? Do you know how old your water heater is? HVAC, furnace, fridge. I know I've bought things all over the place, from Costco, from Best Buy. I'm like, I don't know, do I have the receipts? Do I have the VIN numbers everywhere? That's a great, that's like, I can take that back myself. And because when something comes up, you're scrambling, and then you'll overspend to fix the problem. I have fixed and replaced appliances that I realize were under warranty, and I look back, but in the moment, you don't want to lose the reservation.
One thing I will also add, and this can be for your own properties, it can also be if you're managing other people's properties. We have a very explicit property overview sheet that we require our clients to fill out, and we filled them out for our own properties as well. It has the year of the refrigerator, the brand. We have pictures of the barcodes. If we need a filter, we can easily order it. We know, gosh, more information on every single appliance and every single major system in all of our properties. And it sounds like it's overkill. I promise you it is not. So again, a full list of property overview and every single detail of every single property. And it saved us so many times.
People are going to want your email to send that afterwards. Okay. Sam, how about you? What are common issues and crisis things that come up, and how do you prepare your team to solve them?
Good question. While Angela was speaking, I was having a flashback of December 23rd, 2022, when someone flooded my beach house and caused over $100,000 worth of damage. That sucked. So that's one big thing, and I was trying to find the kind of the lesson in that. Anybody own in here? Own and manage their own homes? Okay, cool. Insurance. Okay. I'm gonna just full transparency. I bought this as a second home whenever they were doing second home loans. Tough to find anymore, but I bought it. I did a second home loan. I put it. I have USAA as my insurance company. I purchased it. It was under like second home. It was a rental home. Okay. They didn't really ask specifically if it was a short term or a long term. So it was just a rental home. And so that happened. 5 hours away in Galveston, right? So that was a cool Christmas. But anyway, have your home insured, right, with your primary insurance company if you can. See what coverage they have. I also have an umbrella policy. Okay, have that over everything, over your cars, over all your property, with an LLC as well. Consult an attorney, right, to do this the right way. It's not that hard. I thought umbrella insurance was really expensive. It is not. It is not bad. So if you're going to do anything, look into umbrella insurance to cover yourself personally after you go home. It saved a lot of money. I didn't come out of pocket. Well, the deductible, which was like 10, it ended up being like 10 grand or something like that. Thank you, right? I also got a $20,000 payment from Airbnb. I went on social media. I was blasting Ryan. I was calling Ryan Chesky out. Like, if you go back, and what I didn't know, but my VAs told me, because my VAs were formerly Airbnb full-time employees, is that they have a social media monitoring department. Airbnb does, okay? And that was their recommendation to me. They're like, look, I mean, I don't know. Like, look, go to social media. I was like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, I'm telling you. There is a whole different department. It sounds crazy, but they told me, like, yeah, like nobody even really speaks to the people in that department. They're like blacked out windows. It's like a mafia type stuff. Like they go in through a different exit, but it's serious. And I got on and I was like, hey, Brian, what's going on? And I was like, showing the home in the back and everything. And no lie, 2 weeks later, they deposited 19,000 something in my account. Now, we all know how things have changed in the past few months. I'm not sure if that'll work, but if it gets to be big enough of a deal, give it a shot. That's my recommendation.
Some really great nuggets in there. Check your insurance. I know I also, like my State Farm guy, did all of my first few rentals, and when I had an issue, I know I told him it was a short-term rental, but they want to get the commission, right? Like hardworking people, good, well-meaning, but they don't make money unless they sell. And the first couple claims that I had on those listings, they were like, well, we didn't know those were short-term rentals. So have an honest discussion with there's 2 or 3 companies up in the vendor hall that do nothing but this, so check them out. There are short-term rental insurance options that will also provide business interruption insurance, so they'll compensate you for the loss of the revenue from bookings you might have to cancel. So check it out. If you go through a standard insurer like a State Farm or someone, it's probably not specific, but the good news is there are short-term rental specific insurances. There's at least 3 companies upstairs for this as well. And then social media, wow, that's really interesting. One hot tip that I'll just add on to that one, we know that Airbnb's dispute resolution and review removal policy right now, their first line of defense is AI. Airbnb acquired an AI company about 16 months ago, and the word on the street is they integrated it in. They're monitoring messages, of course, to try to make sure that you're not taking guests off platform, right? But they're also the first line of defense on reviews and dispute resolution is AI. What we've heard and what we've seen in some of our data at Hospitable, if you add an attachment, even if it's a screenshot of the same conversation you had with the guest, it's automatically going to a manual review team at this point. So will they change that? Now, can AI look at a screenshot? Yeah, probably. But right now, what we're seeing is a much, much higher success getting a review removed, or at least getting a reasonable human to not give you a copy and paste BS answer denying your claim, because that's what the AI is doing right out the gate. All right, let's go to creative ways to add listings. So each of you started at none. You got 1. Angela got 12 in 1 month. You guys actually got yours back, right? There was some interesting.
Yeah, there were 12 under a property management company, and again, literally hostile takeover.
This story's public, so I don't think I'm sharing anything that.
I confirmed with David what I was allowed to say and not say.
So I actually saw this. It was on. David Green actually spoke about this publicly, but something about the old property manager sort of took over the deeds almost as well. Like there was some ownership sort of stuff. that was very nefarious. So check your agreements too, as probably Angela would recommend. But there are creative ways to pick up listings. So I would be curious to go completely down for all of our panelists here. What's the most creative way you picked up a listing? And this could be one that you acquired, one that your co-host, one that you arbitraged, but there's lots of ways that we hear out there, but there's so many people doing the standard way. So I'd just be curious, what's the most creative or the listing or the property that you're managing now that you're like, I can't believe I got that one. It's kind of a story.
Yeah. So again, I don't have a lot of time, so I had to think, how can I make the most value and make myself known and available so that people know what I do? I went right to Google. So, one thing I learned through the mastermind is that you can create a Google My Business page for your business. You can look mine online, Your Home Away Management San Antonio. You can look us up on there. You can leave us a 5-star review. That's what we really pushed to make sure that we were getting ranked high when people in San Antonio were saying, short-term rental manager, Airbnb manager, and we wanted to make sure we were showing up there. So we have over 120 plus reviews right now. They don't all have to be from guests. They can be from anybody that you've had a phone call with about anything. Like, you just want to start getting some reviews there, and posting to your Google My Business page, just anything from Canva that you can put together, a review or whatever, really will help. Because for me, I do rely heavily on inbound lead generation, but we've been getting some really great properties. We have one now, we call it Twisted Creek. That's just the street it's on. I'm sure that's not creative, but it's got bowling alley. It's got the pool and the hot tub. It's got 14-person fire pit. It's got, what else, Tammy? It's got it's crazy, super experiential, to the nines. So, and that came from Google. I'm getting pretty much 1 or 2 leads coming to me from Google pretty much every week. Not all of them we take, but we're able to hand those off to other people in our network as well, see if they can make something happen with that. So if you don't have a Google My Business page, I highly recommend you doing that, and having something to send them to, whether it being your Facebook page or a simple lead page. You can do Market My STR or another Go High Level and create a simple lead page there. But people will find you online if you make your presence known and make it worth finding.
It's interesting because most people will start and get their website, and they say, well, we've got to customize our website. We have to blog. We have to do all this content. That seems like it takes a long time. But Google My Business is something different. You're saying it's free.
Yeah.
You can just file, and you can just get reviews, and that will help you rank.
Yeah. And you can send your Google review link to those guests that you got a 5-star review from as well. It's not taking them off platform, anything like that. You can also just text them, if you're a little weary of it. But we try to get 5-star reviews from guests because those are usually very, very good. But and then they can share that link with everybody in the group, not just the booker. So you get your reviews multiple ways.
Very cool. That's like a gift that keeps giving. That's super cool. Angela, how about you?
So this is going to be super old school. Well, first of all, we do have an advantage because David has a large platform, so he can say that. But you'd be surprised we don't actually get that many clients from there. But this is super old school. When we visit the properties, we talk to everyone. And I think my prize client was so if you guys are on Instagram, check out CTC Getaways. That's David's property management company. But we talk to everybody. And one of the things that I love to do when I go to visit these properties is I like to eat local food because I like to be able to recommend it to our guests. Not the there's a Starbucks down the street or this chain restaurants, but local food. And so I was in South Florida and I wanted really good fish tacos. So I went to this local bar. And of course, sometimes this place is a little pricey, but I sat at the bar by myself, started chatting with a guy who was from California. I asked him what he was doing down there, and he said, I just have this condo down here, and I don't have time. He was an engineer, a doctor or something, lived in California. I was like, well, this is convenient. I manage properties down here. So we started chatting, and it's a little bit, I'm actually mostly introverted, so it's exhausting for me, but we talk to everyone. We talk to the cashier at Target. We talk to the handyman. We talk to, obviously, real estate agents, low-hanging fruit. But we talk to literally everyone and say that we manage properties because those are the people you want, because those are the people that are not the investors that have other means to manage their own properties, or they already have a property manager. So we talk to everybody. And the other thing is, we have a guy in Fort Myers, Florida. He has a house and he's really good friends with all of his neighbors. They also don't want to manage the property. So if we can do a good job for him, he's like, yeah, I've got 5 guys that are also looking for a property management company. So I think it's just very old school, but talking to everyone, having your contact information on you at all times, and word of mouth. So classic marketing techniques.
Very cool. Mike?
Yeah, so tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., we've got a session with Mike Sjogren, and I'm doing the full first hour, which is on this. It's on acquisition. So it's on how to find new co-hosting clients. Who here is familiar with the UI method? Nice. Only about like less than a third of the room. So when I first started this, the strategy was to go on Zillow and find for rent listings, call them, and try and get them to turn the for rent listings into co-hosting listings. And it worked really well until rents went way up in like 2021, 2022. So I was like, well, where are the listings now? And if you go on Airbnb or AirDNA, you can filter by review score. So you can look at properties that are underperforming and that have poor property managers. Typically, I called this the Vacasa killer method when it first started, and I kind of wanted to take their name out of it and evolve. And at the end of the day, these properties are being underserved. So I called it the underserved investor method. And so what you do is you find these properties, you can make a list of them, and then you go on Airbnb, you look at their page, and then you kind of find out where the property is located, right? It doesn't have the exact address, but you find in that general area. You go on Google Maps or Google Earth. You look at the front of the property on, Vacasa and Evolve. It's always, the first picture is always the front of the house, right? So you go on Google Earth, you find the front of the house, and then you got the address. So you got their address, and this works if you want to buy their house too. So you got their address now. All right, well, it's pretty easy to get people's contact information. You can go on True People Search or PropWire, another way to do it, and reach out to them. And again, these people are typically struggling because the difference between a 4.7 star review on Airbnb and a 5-star review, according to AirDNA, is 18.7% in RevPAR. So if you can take over that property, manage it better, get 5-star reviews, you can make them 18% more. So basically, your entire co-hosting, fee is made just through managing better. So yeah, then you reach out to them, and all you do is say, hey, I'm a local owner as well, if you own in that market, and I love your property, and I saw you got some underperforming reviews. How's your revenue doing? Hey, I'm happy to help you, and then you just start a conversation with them. So that's how it all started, and then my friend Sam over here kind of took that and was like, Mike, I think I can put that on steroids, and so that's where he started the Go UIX method. If you want to talk about that or talk about a different way, but yeah, that's essentially the UI method. To, at the end of the day as well, it's these properties that are underperforming. They're also being bad neighbors, and I think the reputation of Airbnb has gone down, and we're getting regulated in all these different markets because of poor management, in my opinion. The Make STRs Great Again hat, I love that, because if we can take on these properties and actually give a shit, give a care, right, and make it better in our neighborhoods, there's less likelihood to get regulated in our neighborhoods too. So yeah, that's the primary method that we use, and a lot of the time it's all the same issues that the homeowners have. It's one, revenue, but then two, things are getting damaged, things are missing. So having an offer ready for them to say, hey, what we do is quarterly inspections where we do a 90-point inspection. So, if things are damaged or things are missing, and then that's part of your offer to them that makes it more of an incentive for them to move off of Vacasa, Evolve, or whoever, or even self-managing too, to taking on your services.
You have a specific property, Sam, that you want to cover that you found in an untraditional way, perhaps, using that method or any other method, or we can move on?
Yeah, so this is not a shameless plug, but there are systems out there that can do this. So I took, I loved what Mike had, created and taught with the UI method, underserved investor method, and so I was getting some deals with that, so I knew it worked. But I wanted to, as Mike said, shoot the juice to it. And so what we did, instead of doing like one or two, I created this system. The problem was I didn't create a system off of that very well. So I had this other system that I could use where I could do like outreach to 50 people at a time, to 100 people at a time, to 200 people at a time. And my first reach, my first contact point was a one-ring voicemail. So they could look, hear, feel it ring, but they didn't have time to answer it. And then a minute later, they get a voicemail. Have you guys ever had that? Like, it's like, hold on, somebody called or whatever, and you didn't answer it, and then you get a voicemail. So that is a technique that systems can do now. You can do that, right? There are systems that enable that. You can. Sometimes you may not even get a ring. You just get a voicemail pop up. You're like, how's that? That is a technology, right? So we did that, and then some automation that gives a personalized text message, mentioning their first name, mentioning their address, like, hey, John, I saw your property on 123 Main, basically the same thing. Like, this method was my inspiration, and so we just created a workflow that automates that. So then you get callers, investors, realtors calling you, and so like you're fielding these investors that are unhappy, and so some whatever they're happy or they think they're happy or whatever. When they're unhappy, you have to cut the call short. Like Mike, I mean, have you ever had that experience whenever you're talking to somebody and like, hey, just how's it going? If it's bad, you have to stop them. They want to roll. And so anyway, that's kind of what we did. And so I've been very successful with that.
Very cool. You hear some untraditional ways, talking to people, sort of some systematic ways. I think the key thing there is you got to have some feelers out there. You have a passive way with Google My Business. That's a gift that keeps giving. Then you have oxygen-breathing humans, sort of talking to other oxygen-breathing humans in the local market and meeting people. Then you have a systematic way, all three very different ways, but you have to have some bobbers in the water if you want to pick up some more listings, right? All right, so we're going to do like 15 seconds, 20 seconds each on your top tip that helped you scale when you went through your highest growth. And then we'll open it up. I think we might have time for a couple of questions, but the panelists will be available in their contact. So anyone can take the first one. What's the top takeaway tip to scale?
I'll go quick. Before you have as many properties I have, make a team, get a VA, do something, because you'll grow faster if you're not the one doing everything.
Yeah, my advice is this conference, you guys are going to hear so much information on people scaling. Obviously, even just from us four, we all have very different methods. Find what works for you and what you like and what works for your business and how you want to scale. If you want to scale from 1 to 5 properties, or if you want to scale from 1 to 100 properties, those are going to look very different. And there is not a cookie cutter approach. There is not one way to do it. So find what works for you and your business and what you want that to look like, and then go after that, because these conferences are very overwhelming. There's so much great information. So customize it and don't think that, oh, they're doing this, I have to do it this way. Find what works for you and your business and go for it that way.
That's great advice. Yeah, for me, I think the number one piece of advice is when you're growing, you're getting uncomfortable, right? It's out of your comfort zone. You're adding more properties. So what's your why behind it, and what's your goal? So getting very, very clear on what that goal is. And then for me, what I did is I wrote down my goal every single day. And for me, it was to get out of Google. I needed about $20K a month to do that. So I wrote that down every single day for about 18 months. And happened faster than I thought, which was great. But at the same time, too, there's a lot of ups, a lot of downs. But if I wrote that down every day and it was real. And I think whether it's $20K a month or buying your next property or whatever that goal is for you, if you put pen to paper, you make it real in real life, things start to happen a lot quicker, and your intuition kicks in a lot quicker than going through Groundhog Day every single day, which is what most of us do, right? So yeah, that's my number one piece of advice.
Cool. I've got tied for one, so I'll take advantage of this. So tied for one is don't let perfection get in the way of progress. A system, even an Excel sheet, is a system if you have SOPs behind it, okay? You don't need some fancy thing, right? So that's one. Your systems will carry you, and then they'll change. They'll modify. It's great. You're going to grow. Second thing is sales. If you don't have sales, you don't have a business.
Cool. Something Angela said really resonated on like find what works for you. Like when I scaled I found a passion for restoring historic homes. And like if you're passionate about something, you'll go do it more. If you're passionate about doing a $200,000 yard renovation and making that the destination for people to go to, there's people who do that. If you're like, I just want to have affordable units where people come and they can stay on Furnish Finder, that's a strategy. But if you're passionate about it, usually that will take you through the low points, right? If you're following kind of what your strategy is. That's cool. Well, they're holding up a sign. We'll take a couple questions. If who has a question for the panelists, hold your hand up and Miles will bring the mic. Say your name, where you're at, and how many properties you have.
Hello, everybody. My name is Blake Anthony Carter from Austin, Texas. We have about 90 properties. And I was wondering what y'all's sales process looks like from the time a lead comes in and how you convert that lead to a co-hosting deal.
Yeah, so I have a whole sales funnel, and I'm talking about it tomorrow at 8 a.m. Really like bright and early. So I go through the whole sales funnel, but it's around creating awareness, and then you got to open up the conversation, then you got to hold a discovery. So you got to have a list of questions to ask them. Bill talked about it. Have those 3 questions you ask every single person, and then you go through negotiations and signing that contract. Before that, you got to make the offer. So what is your offer? I think a lot of people will take on any kind of property, right? But what is it? What makes it unique? What is your unique offer, and what's unique about your company that is going to entice people to move and work with you instead of, there's a lot of them out there, right? And then going through negotiations, and then having a really, really dialed in onboarding process as well. That makes it seamless to take over that property. Like we were saying, I mean, there's so many different things, so many serial numbers and everything that a property has that if you make it as easy as possible for new clients, you get to onboard more faster. So yeah, just have a funnel for your business.
We'll take one more. We'll be fair. How about this side? Is there a question on this side for our panelists? All right, we have one here. Miles?
I'm Sean Manusco. My wife and I live in Raleigh. We own 2 in the Smokies, and we manage 2 in the Smokies. Trying to grow the property management side of things. I'm in secrets. Question for Jeremy specifically. Not to put you on the spot, buddy. You mentioned being kind of stuck at like 4 properties for a little bit, joined the mastermind, but what was the difference that helped you kind of like take that next step forward and scale probably the fastest you had since you started doing this?
And I'll try to make it quick, Kat. I know we're running low on time here. But so really taking the different pieces that I'd amassed, I had a website, I had, a couple properties, I had a bunch of different things, and being able to kind of put them together. So when I discovered that I could make a Google My Business page, I was able to link my website, I was able to link my social media, I was able to link all these different things so that, to your question, Blake, when people found me on Google, they would go to my website. On my website with my property management page is a form that they would fill out. When they submit that form, it took them right to my calendar so that they could then book a meeting with me immediately. Took me out of it completely, so I didn't have to be kind of the bottleneck to that part of the sales process. I get a notification on my phone that I got another meeting set up, and I get on the call. I'm able to qualify them a little bit beforehand, and then from there, it's just a matter of knowing what you're doing and how you can help them, and kind of the preparation a little bit you've done ahead of time, and then if you're a match, you go from there and you kind of just finish the sales process. And that's kind of how we've done it, is to take myself out of the process as much as possible before the lead came in, because it's all inbound for me, and then just wowing them with what we do.
Very cool. We're negative 2 minutes. They've told us in advance we'd
Sorry,
have to
Kat.
end 5 minutes early because the next session is in here. But I want to thank our panelists, Jeremy, Angela, Mike, and Sam. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you guys for showing up. We'll stick in the hallway if you want to continue the conversation with the panelists. So thank you.